once again going to discuss about the next lesson in supplementary, that is Journey to the End of the Earth. The lesson belongs to a journey by the South writer Tishani Doshi, who was on Russia's research vision during the second their students and
बेटा ब्रेकफास्ट में फ्रूट्स
नहीं, oats,
आमंड्स
seeds,
ये सब और रागी व्हीट कॉर्न रेजिन्स ब्लैक करंट्स क्रैनबेरीज इतना सारा बस 12 Kellogg's Muesli है 12 grains fruits nuts and seeds वाला power breakfast Kellogg's Muesli 12 in 1 power breakfast
हिस्ट्री कहती है कोई भी अपने होम ग्राउंड पर कप नहीं जीता है। हिस्ट्री कहती है कोई भी कप 3 बार नहीं जीता है। पर ये हिस्ट्री की क्लास नहीं, क्रिकेट का मैदान है। तो इस बार हम हिस्ट्री डिफीट करेंगे, हिस्ट्री रिपीट करेंगे।
their students. Good morning to all of you. And in our English prose, class 12th, that is Poet and Pancake. It is a comical and humorous description by the writer Asuka Mitran, where, as the title suggests, the poet and pancake. Poet, one hand, means a talent which is literary, and the pancake means the talent how to decorate, how to design, or how to paint the characters playing a role in the film. And all of the activities take place in Gemini Studio. Gemini Studio was famous at its time, and the players, the characters who played in the films in the past time used pancakes, a material makeup at that time. It was totally different and loaded on truck. Gemini Studios had a small chamber which includes a complicated included a complicated atmosphere because it has a half dozen mirror in the small chamber. It was just like a saloon where one those subjected to makeup had to face a great problem. And in such a situation, it was a force majeure for the character who are subjected to makeup because he had to face incandescent light all around it. And as far as the famous name in this story is concerned, a great character, Kothamangalam Subbu. Kothamangalam Subbu was a Brahmin, and by virtue, he had the talent to adjust himself to the circumstances, whether it is adverse or suitable. And for his readiness and for his immediate responses, he was very close to his boss. He was at number 2 in Gemini Studios. And whenever the boss or any high rank officers orders him, he was always ready to follow him. And there were many members who were jealous of him because he was so popular and she was so close to the boss, and also there were so many members who visited to him. It was that's why they were jealous to Kothamangalam Subbu. And one of them was the office boy, who always blamed Kothamangalam for not able to become a writer and or to become an actress or a scriptwriter. And his literary talents was dwarfing at that moment. And he was given a work of crowd painting. It was a very good thing for him that doing so he had not to think a lot of about how to paint or how to decorate the characters. There was hierarchy in Gemini Studios, and because of this, the chief actors are subjected to the chief makeup man, and the assistant actors are subjected to the assistant makeup man. And as far as the crowd shooting is concerned, it was the responsibility of the office boy. At the same time, there was the most important factor is that a writer's visit in Gemini studio. And the writer visit was a mystery for those who are in Gemini studios because he was not so famous as the other poets like Byron, Keats, William Shakespeare, or William Wordsworth. And that's why the man was visiting Gemini studio was a mystery. And the man was none other but a poet, Stephen Spender. He was not became so easy in the Gemini studio because his accent was unable to reach those audience who were there in Gemini studios. And he has delivered his speech without addressing the members there. So the visitor at Gemini studio was unexplained mystery. And after the departure of the such kind of a guest, there was another group was there, and it was considered the communist. Communists were kind of people who do not believe in God, and even they have no repentance to kill their own relatives, sons, father, etc. They visited there also and displayed a drama which was very popular in Gemini Studios. But the most important thing the Gemini Studios members observed that was the makeup of the high quality. And there was also the impact of the Russian Revolution, and the communism was on top. That's why they have discussed a theme, the God that failed. And it was a very popular one, but not very effective in Gemini Studios. Because in Gemini Studio, the people were old belief and they did not consider the things like the uh, communism. They had no meaning from this. So now there is a conclusion of the Listen the Poet and Pawn Cake where there was oddities to take some matter, but all of them was the Kothamangalam Subbu who was the
Pay zero delivery fee on orders above 99 and zero handling, rain or surge fee. Get lowest prices on everything, every day, only on Zepto.
dear students. As you have mentioned about that Hindi language must be also for this. So I will try to do my best to explain the chapter also in English. And chapter is related to the post section, as you know, and that is lesson number 5 in the book, a famous work from Louis Fisher. In this lesson, Louis Fisher discussed about the sharecropping dispute and how Gandhi became popular through this episode. In the beginning, there is an interview between Louis Fisher and Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi told him how he became so famous after this episode. And the lesson starts with a famous four sharecroppers, Rajkumar Sukla, a poor and uneducated but was resolute in nature, who belonged to a poor Brahmin, but having the power of resolution. When he was known about Mahatma Gandhi, the conviction of Indian National Congress, he met Gandhi, but local authorities. And when he tried to disobey it, Gandhi was given a notice. Gandhi wrote on the notice that one hand he, on the other hand, followed wherever Gandhi went. And after a long waiting, Rajkumar Shukla met Gandhi at the appointed place in Calcutta, from where he and Gandhi boarded for the train of Patna. Both met Rajendra Prasad there. Gandhi met Rajendra Prasad and checked the status of the poor sharecropper case. He also escorted the lawyers for taking a large amount of fee from the poor sharecroppers, while their cases were pending without settlements. He scolded them for doing such kind of thing because the farmers were getting poorer and poorer and they were fear stricken. And it was useless to represent a case like this in the court. Gandhi set a new plan for this, and after that, a lot of preparation been done. The depositions were 10,000 farmers been taken, and each group has a responsibility to be arrested in the court. Gandhi proceeded Motihari. When he proceeded Motihari, he was detained by the local authorities. And when Gandhi tried to disobey, now for the students who want the summary of this lesson in Hindi. ये पाठ गांधी जी के इम्पोर्टेंट सहयोग से रिलेटेड है, जिसका नाम है चंपारण में नील की खेती। इस पाठ में राजकुमार शुक्ला, जो एक गरीब किसान है, उनके आग्रह पर महात्मा गांधी चंपारण आए और यहाँ पर उन्होंने चंपारण की जो बटाई वाली खेती का जो विवाद था उसके संदर्भ में पूरी तरीके से निस्तारण किया। इससे पहले यहाँ पर जो वकील थे वो किसानों का पक्ष रखते थे, लेकिन वो मामला लंबित पड़ा रहता था और पूरी तरह से सुनवाई नहीं होती थी। महात्मा गांधी जब चंपारण पहुंचे तो उन्होंने वकीलों को फटकार लगाई कि ये जो वकील हैं ये पहले से ही अपने आप में आर्थिक रूप से कमजोर हैं, पैसे त्रस्त हैं और इनसे इस प्रकार से पैसा लेना ये बिल्कुल न्यायोचित नहीं है, बल्कि कोर्ट में जाना ही बंद कर देना चाहिए। गांधी जी ने वकीलों से मिलकर के इस केस की नए तरीके से प्रस्तावना और योजना तैयार की, जिसमें सारे वकील लोग शामिल थे और वो एक नई प्रक्रिया आरंभ की गई जांच के अंतर्गत, जिसमें बहुत सारे किसान भी शामिल हो गए और गांधी जी इस प्रक्रिया में आगे बढ़ चले और निर्भीक होकर के मोतिहारी की ओर बढ़े। तभी स्थानीय अधिकारीगणों ने उन्हें रोका और वहां रोकने के बाद जब गांधी जी ने उनकी अवहेलना करनी चाहिए तो उन्हें जो है एक सूचना घर तक पहुंचाई गई और उस आफ्टर दैट द एंटायर एरिया had become full of the sound or full of the waves of the investigation done by the Gandhi and the other leaders. And they set and laid foundation also in the Champaran case. At the request of the Mahatma Gandhi, a committee was organized, and in this committee, one side there was a group of landlords, officers, and others, and on the second hand, there was Mahatma Gandhi as the sole representative of the farmers. In this committee, Gandhi had his own favor, demanding 50% of the refunds for the sharecroppers. But the landlords agreed to pay him 25%. At this, Gandhi agreed it, and finally the deadlock was finished. Many of them asked why he was ready. Then Gandhi replied, it was not only the question of their prestige, but also they surrendered themselves. And when he was in this case, many of the lawyers thought that Mr. Andrews should be included as he was a farmer. But Gandhi understood the mentality of the lawyers and he scolded for this. He refused to enter the support of their students. Good morning. And today's session we are going to discuss the lesson number 4, the rat trap. The rat trap is a story full of entertainment and philosophical perspective. In this story, there is a rat trap seller who is called peddler, who sold his rat traps made of wires going to the villages and the towns. As he was poor, so he could not manage the needs for his own enjoyment as well as the daily bread. For this reason, he sometimes stole the things to manage his daily bread. And now there was an interesting thing is there when he was at his selling rounds, thought of an idea to see the world. And the idea was the whole world around him, its lands, cities, towns, villages, and all the things on this earth is nothing but a big rat trap. As the world offers the people joys, sorrow, food, shelter, rivers, and so many things on this earth. As a rat is offered a piece of cheese and pork to entrap them. As soon as anyone touches the trap, it closes onto him and everything comes to an end. The one day the peddler visited uh, crafter's house nearby the road, and he was warmly welcomed by the owner of the house, and he offered him Boris. And before bedtime, he enjoyed a tobacco roll with him and also played a game of chess, Mazelo. And whenever they got up early in the morning, the peddler thought of his money that was sown by the crafter to him, 30 knor bills. And this money brought him once again to the crafter's house, where he stolen the money and decided to go not by the public highway but throughout the forest. And he was very happy with his smartness to steal the money from the crafter's house. But soon he realized that he was walking in the same direction again and again. And finally, now he felt very sad. And he remembered his own words: the world is nothing but a big trap. And he thought it was his turn to be in trap, the trap set by the crafter. And hence he became very sad. And after the same time, he heard the sound of thumping. It indicated that there was something like a factory or their students. And we are going to discuss about the important lesson the rat trap. In this story, there is a peddler who sold rat traps made of wires. He himself made them at the odd moments. But sometimes, when the business was not profitable, he also stole the things. And during his selling rounds, one day an idea struck in his mind that entertained him. The idea that the world around him, its lands, cities, towns, villages, and the rivers, all the things on the earth is nothing but a big rat trap, as it offers food, clothing, joys, sorrows, etc. In the same way, a rat is offered a piece of cheese and pork to entrap them. As soon as anyone touches the trap, it closes onto him and everything comes to an end. Such kind of idea always entertained the peddler because he was always in privation. The peddler never felt anything like a home as he was neglected and ignored wherever he went. And during this session, he thought such kind of ideas which always entertained him. His life was monotonous and full of disappointment because he was always looking ignored wherever he students. And we are going to discuss about the important lesson the rat trap. In this story, there is a peddler who sold rat traps made of wires. He himself made them at the odd moments. But sometimes, when the business was not profitable, he also stole the things. And during his selling rounds, one day an idea struck in his mind that entertained him. The idea that the world around him, its lands, cities, towns, villages, and the rivers, all the things on the earth is nothing but a big rat trap, as it offers food, clothing, joys, sorrows, etc. In the same way, a rat is offered a piece of cheese and pork to entrap them. As soon as anyone touches the trap, it closes onto him and everything comes to an end. Such kind of idea always entertained the peddler because he was always in privacy. The peddler never felt anything like a home as he was neglected and ignored wherever he went. And during this session, he thought such kind of ideas which always entertained him. His life was monotonous and full of disappointment because he was always looking ignored wherever he. We were discussing about the peddler who got entertained himself with the kind of thought as we have discussed earlier, and now he visited the crafter house by the roadside where he was warmly welcomed by the owner of the house, and the owner of the house offered him porridge, and porridge was given to the peddler, which he enjoyed. And before going to sleep, both of them used tobacco roll and played a game of card that was magic. And after that, the man, the captor, showed him 30 crore bills. And seeing the money, the peddler felt odd, but a kind of thought to steal the money. And the next morning, both woke and left the house. The peddler also left, but soon he returned and smashed the panes of the window and took out 30 crore bills from his house. And because of the fear being to be caught by the police and sent to jail, he decided not to go by the public highway, but through the forest. And when he was walking in the forest, after a long time, he felt that he was walking in the same direction, in the same path of the forest. And after that, he reached towards the factory where he was wet with the rain and was shivering with cold. He went there and the blacksmith noted him to sit there to keep warm. And there was the iron master who was the owner of the factory, always visited on his usual rounds. And now on his usual rounds he visited and find the man like the peddler. He thought him his own comrades, colleagues in the army, and requested him to go to his home. But the peddler always thought of the money and refused to go there. Knowing everything, now the iron master got its way back, and he sent his own daughter, Adela Williamson, considering she was more persuasive than him. And when Adela Williamson visited the factory, she showed sympathy to the peddler and asked about her miserable days and assured him that he would be welcome at her home like a captain, like a guest, at the occasion of the Christmas Eve. And finally, the peddler believed in her words and moved with her to the iron master home. Though when he was going in the carriage, he was always thinking of the stolen money and the fear to be arrested if he was caught. After that, he reached towards the factory where wet with the rain and was shivering with cold. He bent there, and the blacksmith nodded him to sit there to keep warm. And there was the iron master, who was the owner of the factory, always visited on his usual rounds. And now, on his usual rounds, he visited and find the man like the peddler. He thought him his own comrades, colleagues in the army, and requested him to go to his home. But the peddler always thought of the money and refused to go there. Knowing everything, now the Iron Master got its way back, and he sent his own daughter, Adela Williamson, considering she was more persuasive than him. And when Adela Williamson visited the factory, she showed sympathy to the peddler and asked how his labor days, and assured him that he would be welcome at her home like a captain, like a guest, at the occasion of the Christmas Eve. And finally, the peddler believed in her words and moved with her to the Iron Master's home. Though when he was going in the carriage, he was always thinking of the stolen money and the fear to be arrested if he was caught. One day, the peddler visited Proctor's house nearby the road, and he was warmly welcomed by the owner of the house, and he offered him Boris. And before bedtime, he enjoyed a tobacco roll with him and also played a game of chess, Mazego. And whenever they got up early in the morning, the peddler thought of his money that was sown by the crafter to him, 30 Conolways. And this money brought him once again to the crafter's house, where he stolen the money and decided to go not by the public highway but throughout the forest. And he was very happy with his smartness to steal the money from the crafter's house. But soon he realized that he was walking in the same direction again and again. And finally, now he felt very sad, and he remembered his own words. The word is nothing but a big trap. And he thought it was his turn to be entrapped, the trap set by the crafter. And hence he became very sad. And after the same time, he heard the sound of thumping. It indicated that there was something like a factory, or now we are entering the last phase of the rat trap. Now the peddler was there at the Iron Master's home, but he was totally looking different from them. At this, the Iron Master was angry because he was awarding him as his own comrades and as a guest a captain. Now he thought that he made a mistake, and he decided to get the peddler way back as he came there. But the Iron Master, Astrid Williamson, did not like to do so because she wanted him as his own guest. And finally, the Iron Master also agreed with her. And the next day, when they went to church, they heard from someone that the man who was in the rat trap stole the crafter's money. And when they reached home, they asked the servant about it. The servant replied them. The man went away, but did not take anything, but left a package which is full of small red tags, and with a letter in which he requested to send back the money to the crafter who tried to trap him in the showing him the money that was brought him in such a situation. So that's why the peddler did not like to disappoint at the Williamson at this moment, and that was the end of the story, The Red Trap. In this story, it is not only entertaining, but it is a philosophical and leaving a moral with it that the temptation is the cause of something which is destruction.
माँ काफी स्वीट है, शायद इसीलिए उसे डायबिटीज है। डायबिटीज से आंखों की रोशनी चले जाने का खतरा हो सकता है, जिसे डायबिटिक रेटिनोपैथी कहते हैं। आंखों की रोशनी चले जाने का मतलब क्या होता है, ये मुझसे बेहतर कौन जान सकता है। पर ईयरली आई चेकअप से ये खतरा टल सकता है। माँ ने मुझे इस काबिल बनाया कि मैं अपना ख्याल खुद रख सकती हूँ। आज मैंने उन्हें ये भरोसा दिलाया कि मैं उनका भी ख्याल रख सकती हूँ।
A taste so rich, so intense. It's best enjoyed bit by bit. You don't rush someone eating a Cadbury Bourneville. Don't rush it.
Dear students, let us join next session once again in our post section of class 12 intermediate. And now we are going to reflect at some points to the lesson number 3, deep water. The lesson deep water is a remarkable story of a young boy in which he fears from deep water because of the past incident. The story belongs to YMCA pool, which offered exactly good opportunities for everyone. It was a good pool where the drop was gradual. It was 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and at the deep end it was 9 feet. And the pool was just near connected to the Yakima River. Though the Yakima River was considered treacherous as the writer's mother warned him about it, each details of drowning to him. But in spite of all, YMCA pool was safe. The story starts when the writer William O. Douglas went with his father to the California beach, where both were um, in search to get caught by the sea. But at the same time, the shark, I mean the waves of the sea, came and swam across the writer and his father. The writer only the sensation in his mind was indicating that he was alive. And after all, it was a horrifying experience of a deep water. And somehow the writer escaped from drowning and found himself helpless. At the same time, he realized that how terrified the experience of deep water was. And at the second juncture, whenever he tried to go in deep water, he always avoided to go in deep because of this fear. And after all, he decided to overcome of his fear of deep water. He got an instructor who taught him every possible way to teach this kind of swimming. And finally, he learned swimming by the instructor who taught him first into parts and then different ways how to exhale and how to exhale in the water by different types of ways. And after that, the writer practiced for a month, for a weeks, and after the constant learning, he went to the dangerous rocks and jumped from there into fluent water. And finally, after a positive approach in his mind, he succeeded to overcome the fear of deep water. And now the conclusion is there that as far as there is a statement by American President Roosevelt who declared that the fear of death is the fear in itself, as death is not so fearful as it's. Because of this fear, the writer was afraid of deep water. And once again, the same thing going to happen when he was alone at the YMCA pool. At the same time, a young man came there and tossed him up and threw into the pool, where he went into sitting position. He got afraid, but he was not so much afraid that he forgot his strategy. Finally, he remembered the strategy when he reached the bottom to spring from there, come on the surface like a car. He went straight into the sitting position, and when he reached the bottom, he tried to use his strategy to jump from there. Once he came up on the surface, and the next time he tried but swallowed water. Then, after many attempts and exertion, he felt tired. And within few minutes, within few time, he got so much tired that his arms and legs felt paralyzed. And finally, he felt the situation like intoxication. He was so much exhausted that he was unable to attempt any more. And finally, he felt the tender hurts like her mother, and there was no need. And Eloise was casting on his face, and he was crossing oblivion, the situation like just like a intoxication. And after that, he completely forgot what was going to happen. Only the dear students, let us join next session once again in our post section of class 12 intermediate. And now we are going to reflect at some points to the lesson number 3, deep water. The lesson deep water is a remarkable story of a young boy in which he fears from deep water because of the past incident. The story belongs to YMCA pool, which offered exactly good opportunities for everyone. It was a good pool where the drop was gradual. It was 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and at the deep end it was 9 feet. And the pool was just near connected to the Yakima River. Though the Yakima River was considered treacherous as the writer's mother warned him about it, each details of drowning to him. But in spite of all, YMCA pool was safe. The story starts when the writer William O. Douglas went with his father to the California beach, where both were uh, in surf to get warm by the sea. But at the same time, the surf, the waves of the sea, came and swam across the writer and his father. The writer only the sensation in his mind was indicating that he was alive. And after all, it was a horrifying experience of a deep water. And somehow the writer escaped from drowning and found himself helpless. At the same time, he realized that how terrified the experience of deep water was. And at the second juncture, whenever he tried to go in deep water, he always avoided to go in deep because of this fear. And after all, he decided to overcome of his fear of deep water. He got an instructor who taught him every possible way to teach this kind of swimming. And finally, he learned swimming by the instructor who taught him first in 2 parts and then different ways how to exhale and how to exhale in the water. different types of ways. And after that, the writer practiced for a month, for a weeks, and after the constant learning, he went to the dangerous rocks and jumped from there into fluid water. And finally, after a positive approach in his mind, he succeeded to overcome the fear of deep water. And now the conclusion is there that as far as there is a statement by American President Roosevelt who declared that the fear of death is the fear in itself, as death is not so fearful as it's.
10 रुपए टिप काफी है ना? बॉस का मैसेज है?
गोल्ड खरीद रहा है
है? फोन पे?
हाँ 10 रुपए से आज से रोज लूंगा
10 रुपए में हर दिन गोल्ड? थैंक यू सर.
10 रुपए की कीमत बढ़ेगी जब सेव करोगे गोल्ड के साथ. गोल्ड भी अब फोन पे.
On holiday, husband sitting on a scooter. Scooter. Husband going. I chill out. Husband. Then he back scares. Sorry, my English थोड़ा.
but very sweet. कैडबरी डेयरी मिल्क कुछ अच्छा हो जाए कुछ मीठा हो जाए.
Dear students, now we are going to discuss about the important lesson, the lesson number 2, the last spin. In this important lesson, the narrator Niju describes about 2 episodes during her journey. The first one was to Shimapuri, where she witnessed the rag pickers in the sea. And the second one was Firozabad, where she watched the condition of the bangle makers. Here in Simapuri, people were squatters who came from Bangladesh in 1971 in search of their living, as there were many storms that had blown away their house and fields, and they had nothing there to get food and get something like money. Here in the street of Simapuri, they picked up rags. There were children and there were adults. For children, it is a wrapped in wonder, like it. But for the adults, rag picking is a mean of survival. As far as their condition, they are living in the miserable condition. They had not the houses. They lived in cloth, grass, and tent-made houses. Somehow they had their names in voter list and ration cards enable them to buy grain. It is very hard for them to get food for the day, for himself and for the family. Children were in rag clothes. It was the miserable and pathetic condition there. Now we are going to enter the second phase of the chapter, where we will discuss about the condition of the bangle makers in Firozabad. There were the workers who worked in a hazardous condition, without any proper air, without any proper light, and there were in narrow cells. Among them, there were the adults and the children. And for children, it was a very dangerous because they had to work in suffocated atmosphere in a dirty cell, and there is always mishappening with them. They work there at high temperature, and sometimes because of the polishing and of the dust, they lose their eyesight before they getting adults. The adults also work very hard, but unfortunately they could not manage their new homes. Somehow they renovate, and it was a surprising job for them. Each and every family in Simo and Firozabad was engaged in making bangles, and the same situation was there also. They also looked in the miserable conditions and struggled for their living. There, descendants are also engaged like their forefathers. And when the narrator asked one of the boys named Mukesh, who replied her that he had a dream to become a motor mechanic and to drive a car. It was a surprising jump among the traditional. It was an innovative decision for Mukesh because it was a different one and it was a very daring and encouraging decision among the traditional society. When the narrator asked the people why they are not going to unite in a cooperative, then they replied there was no leader among them who can hold them in a proper way. They had the fear of being arrested by the police, imposing a false case against them. So that's why they are under the effect of a kind of custom, a kind of tradition, where the upper class people, middlemen, police, administrator, and officials trapped them in the vicious circle of the past, in which they are engaged and unable to come out. This was the condition. But America this story as far as in glass industry is concerned, as far as in Firozabad is concerned, it was none other but the Mukesh who dreamed of being a motor mechanic and to drive a car. It was a very daring decision and exceptional one, especially among the traditional in the society. And it is the remarkable figure in this chapter, the last spring. Thanks for watching this. Dear students, very good morning to all of you, and we are going to discuss about the important poem Keeping Quiet, composed by Pablo Neruda in our class 12 syllabus. In this poem, the poet describes about the importance of peace and appeals the readers to keep quiet when he counts from 1 to 12. It is a matter of concern for all of us in this dynamic world when we are going to do the work sometimes without thinking. And now we are going to destroy our entire humanity after the scientific development. In this perspective, the poet appeals the readers to keep quiet to understand ourselves and to others so that we can maintain peace. And in this poem, the poet discusses about the development of the nuclear weapons. If there is a nuclear war, there is a threat of destroying the generations, and after the result the young generation will find in ignominious darkness where they settle here but unable to know what they have to do. In such a situation, the importance of peace is a great one. The poet gives an example of the earth, which seems non-living but proves to be a greater one. Teach us the important lessons of silence and harmony and to live with peace and love together to maintain this entire creation by the God. And that's why the finally once again the poet Pablo Neruda appeals us to keep quiet before he departs from his counting from 1 to 12. The poem has an opportunity to let us talk about the poem Fire and Ice. In this poem, the poet Robert Frost picturizes two contrasting images of fire and ice. In this poem, he describes about the opinion of the two people, in which some say that the world will end in fire, and some say in ice. And the poet clarifies that the world will end in fire because the fire symbolizes desire, and a desire always allows the person to look hungry and to overconsumption of the things in the world without compromising other people's need. Hence, the poet Robert Frost has observed the theme and finally he supported the one who favors fire. On the contrary, he also clarifies the fact that ice, which symbolizes hate, can also destroy the world if it has to perish twice. Because hate is also a negative quality in human being, which creates jealous and hence it is a dangerous one for an entire human being. So it can also destroy the entire humanity in the world. So finally, the poet concludes to say that both fire and ice are responsible for the factor to destroy the world. We must have a control on both of them, otherwise, it may be harmful for the world. This very is the central idea of the poem. Friends, we are going to discuss about the important lesson that is related to class 12, and it is the last lesson. In this lesson, M. Hamel, the language teacher, uh, discusses about the importance of the mother language. And there is a student named the French who got late, especially on that day, and he had the fear in his mind that he would discard him, but M. Hamel was silent and he told him that he could not discard. And finally, he started to teach them the importance of the mother language. The French was surprised to see that there were the old people sitting at the back benches of the classroom. And young Hamel was again and again giving the importance of the mother language. He told that the French is the most clearest and the beautiful and the logical language in the world, which can be learned easily. And he also told that when the people are in a country or enslaved, it is the only way to come out of the prison, as it is the key to prison. Finally, young Hamel blamed himself and the French parents for ignoring the study, which is the most important one for that. But everybody was in the class had the tears because M. Hamel would not continue his teaching anymore, and it was a setback for all of them. And finally, the judge bell struck, and M. Hamel declared that the class was over. For this, he wrote as long as on the board, Viva la France. And finally, the class was over. Thanks for watching. Dear students, we are going to analyze a remarkable poem by Kamala Das, My Mother at 66. In this poem, the poetess describes about the aging process, how an old age looks different in life. In this poem, the poetess drives to Cochin and finds her mother beside her. She looks very pale, old, and like a corpse, and she realizes her beside her. At the same time, she thought of her oldness, and it was her childhood fear, because she had the fear to lose her mother as she was in a very old stage. But soon she saw young children coming out joyfully of the house and the trees sprinting during her journey. All this movement was joyful to her, and she forgot about her mother's terrible boldness. But soon she realizes her mother is standing a few yards away, and she did nothing but only smiled and bade her, saying the word, "See you soon, Amma." It is a pathetic and affectionate attitude of the poet towards her mother, which makes the poem full of imagery and affectionate approach in this stanza. And finally, the poetess concludes that it is an aging process. So, very good evening to all of you, the students. And now we are going to summarize the lesson number 4, the enemy. The lesson belongs to the period when there was the World War. I think World War first, when America and Japan were bitter enemy. And there are the important character in this story, Dr. Sadao, Hana, and the white American soldier, along with Sadao's father. Sadao was Japanese, and his father' chief concern was to get him as a doctor, for which he had struggled a lot, and he wanted him to a doctor. For the further study, he sent him to America, where he learned about medicine. An American professor taught him to save a man as long as possible without any discrimination, either on the race, culture, or any racial background or about on the country. After all, Sadao returned to Japan not only as a surgeon but also scientist. In the same period, Sadao and Hana had a meeting, and it was by chance Sadao was invited to an American professor where Hana was already there. Hana was an American medical student and was already there at the professor's house where Sadao went and they became friends. Their friendship became closer and closer, and finally it was so close that they were ready to get married. They did not marry very early, but they returned to Japan and Sadao's father arranged the marriage in Japanese ways. After that, they lived together with happiness. Meanwhile, an incident took place that when both were at their roof, they saw a man floating in sea. They got down and found out the American war prisoner. They were in dilemma whether to save him or not. And after all, being a human being, they felt pity on the man and took him to their house, where Shadao and Hana, though they did not like to do something for them, but after all, Sadao decided to operate him as he was seriously injured. Before operation, Sadao was in dilemma whether to operate him or not. Even he was unable to find out the fact why he was going to save the man, an American prisoner who was an enemy. But after all, Sadao decided to operate him. During this period, Hana cooperated him very well, and Shadao asked Hana to get closer to him as the white man needed anesthesia during the period of surgery. Hana helped Shadao to do as he had instructed, and after all, after a hard work, Shadao succeeded to get the bullet out of the white man's body. And during this period, Shadao was just like a normal surgeon, forgot even that he was his enemy. And when Sadao operated him very well, the man got recovered. As soon as the man got recovered, Sadao remembered of his promise as a countryman. It was his duty as a countryman to inform the police surgeon. So, in this perspective, Sadao sent the white man Shadow did not send, rather he thought about it to inform the old general. He informed about the presence of the white man in his house to the general. The general, who was treated by Shadow, that's why he told Shadow that he would save him every possible way without any execution. And he told him that he would send two murderers at any planned night to kill him and manage all the things. Shadow waited for the murderers, but they could not come, as the general forgot the promise and he did not send them. And finally, when Shadow understood the thing, he decided the man to save him again. He decided to send him his own native country where he lived. And for this, he secretly bought the belongings for the white man from the market and arranged a boat where all the belongings were loaded on it. And he gave the white man his own torch, which he used during the operation. And he informed him to signal him once if everything was safe, as it was a necessary thing for him. But he instructed him not to signal at night because he would be observed. He told him to wait for a Korean ship, and after all, the things will be managed. During the situation, Sada was in such a condition. Another part we have to know that during this process, the gardener, Yumi, the cook, and other servant left Sadao's house. In such a critical situation, Hana was not accustomed to do the hard labor of the kitchen. But anyhow, she managed the things very well. She did not find herself in such a situation to be hopeless. Rather, she managed the things. Even Sadao also cooperated her well. Both of them helped each other to face such kind of challenges in life. And the gardener was suspected for this on his own young master Sadao. The servant thought that for so many years they lived in America and they forgot the duty as a countryman and as a patriot. But Shadao understood the things very well. Now the question arises as far as the Shadao's character is concerned, it is the most important question from this chapter. Shadao had performed every values and for the sake of all this. As a doctor, he treated his own patient, though he was his enemy, but did not show any partiality or any indifference to it. Rather, he treated well to the white man. And finally, as a doctor, he helped him to save his life. And as far as the countryman is concerned, he reported the general about the presence of the white man and he did not show any partiality or any secret here. Rather, he reported to the original. So, as a countryman, he performed this job. As a human being, Sadao did what his inner feeling uh, communicated to him. And after all, this chapter, the enemy here justified the things that humanity is supreme all over this. Though the white man was his enemy, an American soldier, but as a human being, he was doing his own duty. And as a doctor, Sadao was doing his own duty. But Sadao was in dilemma of doing his dual duty, first as a doctor and second as a countryman. As a doctor, he was taught by American professor to save a man as long as possible, without any discrimination or difference on the basis of culture, religion, or any native country. So after all, Sadao did what his professor had taught him. And on the other hand, it was his duty to report what happened, especially with him, as it was a patriot feelings to the country, and it was his duty as a countryman to surrender the white man to the general. So he reported the general about the presence of all this. Now we have a quick summary in Hindi about the lesson, the enemy. The lesson, the enemy. सप्लीमेंट्री के चौथे पार्ट से उद्धृत द एनमी, जिसका नाम है शत्रु। ये कहानी उस विश्व युद्ध की है जब अमेरिका और जापान दुश्मन थे। यहाँ पर जापान का एक बालक है जिसका नाम शडाओ, जिसके पिता की सबसे बड़ी चिंता थी कि वह उसे पढ़ा लिखा करके डॉक्टर बनाए। जापान में चिकित्सा पद्धति इतनी त्वरित नहीं थी इसलिए उन्होंने उसे पढ़ाई के लिए अमेरिका भेजा। अमेरिका जाने पर उसे अमेरिका के चिकित्सा विज्ञान के प्रोफेसर ने पूरी तरीके से शिक्षित किया, चिकित्सा में, एनाटॉमी में, शरीर रचना क्रिया विज्ञान में, और उसे निर्देशित किया कि डॉक्टर का कर्तव्य है आने वाले जो व्यक्ति है, जितना अगर घायल है तो जितने लंबे समय तक हो सके उसकी रक्षा की जाए, जात के आधार पर, नस्ल के आधार पर, किसी देश के आधार पर न की जाए, अभी तो उसकी जान बचाई जाए। और इसी दौरान सड़ाओ की मुलाकात अमेरिका के एक विद्यार्थी, एक लड़की जिसका नाम हना था, जिससे उसकी मुलाकात हुई। संयोगवश सड़ाओ को भी अमेरिकन प्रोफेसर के द्वारा घर पर आमंत्रित किया गया था, जहाँ पर हना पहले से मौजूद थी। दोनों की मुलाकात हुई और दोनों मित्रता में बन गए। धीरे धीरे उनकी मित्रता इतनी नजदीक होती गई कि वे वैवाहिक दाम्पत्य सूत्र की ओर आ गए। लेकिन उन्होंने कोई जल्दबाजी नहीं की। फिर जब वे जापान पहुंचे तो उनके पिता ने पूरी तरीके से शादी का जो प्रबंध था वो जापानी तरीके से किया और वो एक परिवार के रूप में साथ साथ रहने लगे। इसी दरमियान उन्हें, जब वे छत पर टहल रहे थे तो उन्हें एक व्यक्ति पानी में तैरता हुआ दिखाई दिया। जब वे नीचे आए तो उन्होंने आग पहचाना तो देखा कि वो अमेरिका का युद्ध का एक कैदी था, एक अमेरिकन था जो उनका दुश्मन था। दोनों इस दुविधा में पड़ गए कि इस आदमी का क्या किया जाए। वो आदमी दिखने में मासूम लगता था कि उस पर हना को दया आ गई और फिर सड़ाओ और हना दोनों उसको अपने कमरे में लेकर के आए और अंततः डॉक्टर सड़ाओ ने एक डॉक्टर होने के नाते उसका ऑपरेशन किया और पूरी तरह से उसका इलाज किया। जब वो पूरी तरह से जो है ठीक हो गया तो डॉक्टर सड़ाओ ने बूढ़े जनरल को सूचना पहुंचा दी कि एक सख्त व्यक्ति एक रात उसके घर आया था और उसने उसका पूरी तरीके से इलाज किया। बूढ़ा जनरल इस बात पर पूरी तरीके से और भी आश्वस्त हो गया। उसने सड़ाओ से कहा कि अगर उस बूढ़े जनरल को एक बार बेहोशी की स्थिति भी आ जाए तो उसे सड़ाओ पर भरोसा हो गया कि स्वाभाविक रूप से वो उसे मारने नहीं देगा। और वो हंसा कि आपका व्यक्तित्व ही ऐसा है कि आप इतना अच्छा काम कर रहे हो, और उसे आश्वासन दिया कि वो चिंतित न हो, उसके खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होगी। आपित वो 2 हत्यारों को भेज देगा किसी रात को, जो उसको अंदर ही अंदर मार करके उसकी लाश को भी गायब कर देंगे। सड़ाओ मन ही मन संकुचित हुआ, लेकिन जो बूढ़ा जनरल था वो इस वादे को भूल गया और आखिरकार सड़ाओ ने उसको उसके स्वदेश भेजने का पूरी तरीके से प्रबंध कर दिया और उसके लिए बाजार से आवश्यक सामग्री खरीदी और उसे एक नौका का प्रबंध करके उस पर सारी सामग्री को रख दिया और रखने के बाद उसे निर्देशानुसार अपनी ताज दे दी, जिसको वो चिकित्सा के समय इस्तेमाल करता था, और उससे कहा कि गोधूल बेदा से पहले वो उसे उस ताज से एक बार संकेत कर देना कि सब कुछ ठीक है और वो एक कोरियाई जहाज का इंतजार करेगा, लेकिन निर्देशित ये किया कि रात के अंधेरे में न करे, न था वो देख लिया जाएगा। इसके उपरांत ये जो पाठ है इसमें नौकर का भी हम जिक्र करेंगे, जिसमें यूमी जो रसोईया था, एक बूढ़ा माली था और अन्य जो नौकर थे ये सब उस समय पर छोड़कर चले गए जिस समय सड़ाओ ने उस आदमी की चिकित्सा की। लेकिन हना एक ऐसी लड़की जो इन कठिन कार्यों को करने में अभ्यस्त नहीं थी। उसने बड़ी बहादुरी से इन परिस्थितियों का सामना किया, सड़ाओ की हर संभव मदद की और वो इन परिस्थितियों में उसके साथ थी। उसने कभी भी अपनी हिम्मत नहीं हारी और बहादुरी से हर चीज का मुकाबला किया। तो सड़ाओ का जो चरित्र है वो अपने आप में इसमें श्रेष्ठ है ही है, साथ ही साथ हना का भी चरित्र भी अपने आप में श्रेष्ठ है। दोनों ने मिलकर के इस परिस्थिति का डटकर मुकाबला किया। ये पाठ इस ओर इंगित करता है कि सर्वप्रथम एक मानव होने के नाते कोई भी व्यक्ति है उसकी रक्षा करना उसका दायित्व है। एक चिकित्सक होने के नाते उसका ये दायित्व है कि बिना किसी भेदभाव के वो किसी की भी रक्षा करे। ये इस पाठ का सारांश था। इस पाठ को पुनः एक बार आप अध्ययन करेंगे। कहीं पर कोई भी चीज अगर आपको असहज लगती है तो उसके बारे में आप कमेंट के माध्यम से सूचित करें या किसी अन्य माध्यम से आप सूचित कर सकते हैं। आपकी उन समस्त प्रविष्टियों को समय पा करके उसका निदान किया जाएगा। आप आगे के लिए प्रतीक्षित रहेंगे और पूरी तरीके से इसका अवलोकन करेंगे। धन्यवाद। Dear students, very good evening to you. And in the reference to our supplementary edition, we are going once again to summarize the next lesson, lesson number 5, which is a play. And in this play, there is an important character of Mr. Lamb and a boy who is 14 years old, Jerry. Both are partially disabled. Mr. Lamb is matured man leading to old age, while Derry, a teenager, funny because the people look at his face and comment. And in this escapement, by chance, he passes through Mr. Lamb's garden, finding it quiet and peaceful, and as a Praveshi,